seminar. In this seminar, we will look at a couple different ways that our group can approach a decision, and I'll go more in depth into the process I think will best suit us. A hard reality to face is decisions are inevitable. The most effective coalitions meet and make decisions, otherwise they'll become stagnant. To make a decision means that other opportunities and ideas are essentially cut off, which can be a scary thought. This uncertainty drives us away from decisions, leaving them oft deferred or made quickly without thought. How we come to terms with our decisions may just dictate our coalition's lifespan. Here we are going to look at some common decision-making styles. First up is a no decision, or a decision not to decide. This inaction may look like a quick change of topics before reaching a decision, or a group simply staying quiet when a member brings an idea or decision to the table. The next common style is a self-appointed decision leader, or one person who decides for the entire group. This member will state a decision and assume that everyone else agrees with them. It's a little arrogant, huh? The chair or facilitator will usually be the person to assume this position. Lastly, we have the minority rule style. This is when a small group is divided off and decides for the entire team. In this scenario, a discussion amongst the group ensues, but without a vote amongst the entire body of members. As you may imagine, this can prove frustrating to those who were not a part of the small group and who are a bit quieter. Now, we will delve into the even more common decision-making styles. There are two main styles with a variety of approaches, the first being majority rule. I'm sure most of you have heard of a majority rule, which is an agreement among at least 51% of members. This usually looks like a brief discussion, followed by a final vote, usually by a show of hands. While this process may save time, it can create a competitive win-lose environment if used on complex situations with a lot at stake. This can imaginably create some frustration among the losing side. Next to the main styles is consensus. A consensus means that all members must be in mutual agreement of a decision. It is important to remember that consensus does not mean unanimity or compromise. One drawback to this style is that it typically is a very time-consuming process, though in a critical decision, the coalition as a whole works more cohesively, feels empowered, and is made accountable. Decisions made through consensus will mean most members will work to fully support it, not just the parts they like. So you may be asking yourself, which style is best? Each decision-making style has its own set of pros and cons. When deciding on which style to use, one should consider timeliness, appropriateness, and relationships. A no decision, self-appointed leader, and minority rule are not typically recommended, but are still commonly implemented in many coalitions. So majority rule and consensus are the best bet, but how are they done effectively? The next two slides we will delve deeper into each of these styles' techniques. In looking at majority rule, there are many techniques that exist to execute this technique effectively, based on need for timeliness or anonymity. The first being the 70-30 vote. This technique means that greater than or equal to 70% of members agree on a decision, which understandably means a longer discussion will be involved. The further discussion helps create a more in-depth understanding as to why members feel a certain way. The Marine Corps themselves have used this technique, stating that if you have 70% of the information, have done at least 70% analysis, and feel at least 70% confident, make the decision. The thought process behind this is, a quick and less ideal decision may prove successful, while there's no chance of success making no decision at all. Next is the blind vote, which is recommended for high-stake decisions in which members may not feel comfortable stating their decision to the group. So, a secret ballot or blind vote will provide anonymity and reduce divisiveness. The next technique I find most fun as it makes me think of a scene from The Office. In this scene, Michael and Jim, co-managers, decide who gets raises and at what percent by placing beans on pictures of their workers. This is essentially the DOTS method, though in our setting it would be used to prioritize decisions and their importance. For example, Each of us would be given 10 dots to place on our highest priority decisions, with each person being able to place as many as 4 dots on what they believe to be most important. This technique will usually produce clear winners and help list which decisions to tackle first. The last of the majority rule techniques is devil's advocate. This entails one member finding all possible angles to oppose a decision. This allows all the other members to discuss the benefits of the decision without slowing momentum. To wrap this decision-making seminar up, we will look at consensus. A consensus is great because rather than simply, I can live with it regarding a decision, strategies exist to make a consensus vote more successful and agreeable. There are a few consensus techniques, but I will talk about my two favorites. The first technique is levels of consensus, which I had not known about until some research I recently did, but I now see the merit. This technique is based on a series of 5 levels of support. Level 1 being, I can easily support the decision. Level 2, I can support it but may not prefer it. Level 3, I can support the decision with some tweaking. Level 4, I support the group but don't really agree on the decision. Level 5, I simply can't agree with this decision. When in discussion, if no decision seems forthcoming, the facilitator will ask members to hold up their fingers to correlate which level they are at. Questions are then asked directly to hear concerns. This method's adaptable and can be a blind vote in high-stakes situations, where members close their eyes and hold up fingers based on their level of support. Our coalition will decide before practicing this technique what constitutes consensus. Should everyone be at a 1 to 3 level? Should 70% be at a level 2 or better to warrant consensus? We can decide on this at our next meeting on September 24th. The other consensus technique is known as the straw man technique. This is where a proposal draft is drawn up, or straw man, which then members are encouraged to pick apart and criticize. The straw man will provide a starting point to reach consensus by working as a team to see each other's issues with a decision and what an ideal one may look like in a non-threatening way. This concludes our effective decision-making seminar. I hope everyone absorbs this info and understands the importance so that we may be more successful in our future coalition endeavors. Thank you for taking your time today.